As promised, and look, increasingly, I guess here at the platform, we're reforming the way we cover current events, because what often happens, particularly these days with the attitude of our legacy media and our press gallery, the government will make an announcement and there will be a great wailing and gnashing of teeth, and everyone who hates the government will get their say, and Sharon Murdoch or someone from Stuff will write a nasty campaign, and there'll be a whole lot of unionists online banging on about something. And we kind of miss the story, or we miss the substance of government announcements and policy changes in the kind of frenzy of negativity from our legacy media. And one such policy, I think, that was all about what was wrong with it before we really got a chance to find out what it was about, was the announcement, the recent announcement on charter schools and the expenditure, from my memory, of around $150 million of government money on charter schools. So I thought we'd circle back and we'd go to the top of the story and we'd just try and get some facts out for you people on charter schools. So joining us now, the Minister and the politician, I guess, responsible for pushing this through, David Seymour, leader of the ACT Party. David, how are you? Welcome.
Very, very well, thanks. Sean, how are you?
Very well. Can you just tell us first in basic terms, what is a charter school?
A charter school is like any other school. It has a group of teachers, it has a group of students, it has some buildings, it has a curriculum, and the job is to transfer knowledge from one generation to the next so that those students can actually make a difference in their lives and have a good future. There's some differences in the administration. The way that we do most schooling right now is that there's quite a lot of interference and stipulation from the Ministry of Education in how a school runs. So, for example,
is that what it teaches or how it's administered and run?
Well, actually both. I mean, you might remember, for example, the modern learning environments, these 3 classrooms joined together with 3 teachers, 100 kids, lots of beanbags, and the hope that learning would take place. And that was all based around a child-centred pedagogy where students have to discover knowledge rather than be taught it. So that would be an example of something that for about 10 years, if you were a state school and you wanted a new classroom, you could have any classroom you wanted so long as it was a modern learning environment. So that's the starting point, is that there's a lot of what I call input interference in how state schools operate. But curiously, there's very little in the way of accountability for outcomes. So there's schools that have really abysmal attendance. A lot of the students that they are remunerated for, that they're funded for, don't actually show up. And that carries on happening. As we know, New Zealand has a major long-term problem with student achievement, a lot of students just not at the level. And of course, there's no real consequence for an individual school for doing that. Where charter schools are different is we flip that script and we say, okay, you've got a contract, and that contract, the government gives you money, a certain amount per student, and we'll keep giving you money so long as you achieve the attendance and academic outcomes you're contracted for. So really that is the difference between a state school and a charter school, is that we are less concerned about how they do it, although there are a lot of rules around, teachers have to be qualified and so on. Despite what you may hear, they have to teach the New Zealand curriculum or something better, despite what you may hear. But the key difference is that we hold them accountable for the outcomes, the student achievement and the student attendance, whereas we give them a cash grant that they can use and organise themselves in order to engage the students better their way.
Okay, is the cash grant designed to cover all the costs? So are you essentially tendering out state education? Is that what it is? It's meant to cover all the costs?
Yeah, that's right. So if you're a student going to a state school and you decide to go to a charter school, we basically figure out, well, what is the taxpayer paying on that student's education? There's the teacher funding, there's things like professional learning and development that the government spends on education, there's property funding, there's operational grants. We take all that, we bundle it up and say, well, that's about X dollars per child. Therefore, per student, yep. Therefore, if you've got 100 students, then you get 100 times that.
Okay, so that would encourage these operations, and I'm not going to say to be lean and mean, to be economically efficient. because it's a business.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And so if you look at a place like Vanguard Military School, for example, which people often go to, it gets a lot of media coverage. If you look at what they've done, their buildings are not what you'd normally see at a school. It's not a big patch of grass with a school building in the middle. It is basically a light industrial facility. It's a warehouse in Albany, North Auckland. Now, what they've done, though, is that they've managed to save money on their accommodation, but that's actually allowed them to have more teachers per student, smaller class sizes, and that's been really important for getting students engaged. And many of the students there hadn't been going to school. I was there last week for the launch. I asked some of the students where they'd been before, and this kid was very self-aware. He just said, look, I was a rat bag at my last school. I wasn't really going. I love this place. So again, it's about getting students engaged, because fundamentally, I don't think New Zealand can overcome the pretty significant challenges our country faces right now until we find a way for each individual to succeed on their terms. And there's probably no area other than education more important.
Okay, here are the broader criticisms that, of course, have been highlighted ad infinitum by legacy media, who simply don't like you or the government. One of the things is, are the teachers properly qualified? Do they require the same professional qualifications and registration as teachers in the state sector?
Yeah, they are. The answer, there's two different questions there. Are they qualified? Absolutely. Do they have to be registered with the Teachers' Council? They either have to have a registration with the Teaching Council or a limited authority to teach, so a provisional registration with the Teaching Council. So yes, they have to have a connection with the Teaching Council. They also have to show that they have the skills, qualifications and experience to raise student engagement. So again, we've got a model where if you're with the Teaching Council... Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, if you are with the Teaching Council, then you're okay. But actually, we've got 60,000 teachers who are registered with the Teaching Council. Some of them are brilliant and change children's lives and really make who they are for the rest of their life. Others, I think it's fair to say, are not doing such a good job. So what that tells you is being registered with the Teaching Council isn't actually a silver bullet. What we say in charters is...
I wasn't saying it was. I was asking the question, are these schools subject to inspection on health and safety grounds? Are they subject, if you like, to the same requirements in terms of the environment they provide and their, their compliance with relevant legislation as a state school?
Well, they're certainly obliged. Under the Health and Safety at Work Act, they're a person conducting a business undertaking. So student safety in the general laws of New Zealand, and also in the contracts that they will have between the government and themselves, that is absolutely key. But do you have the same level of, what some people would say are inspections, what many people would say is interference from the Ministry of Education? No, they won't. And if you talk to principals, as I do, I try and talk to every principal in the Epsom electorate every year, and there's 30 of them. The frustration with constant interference from Wellington is immense. It's probably it is the number one thing that they bring up with me. So will the students be safe? Will the environments be safe? Absolutely. Will the teachers be police checked? Absolutely. Will they at least have a limited authority to teach? Absolutely. Will they have the qualification, skills and experience to raise student achievement? Absolutely. All of that is true. But that doesn't mean that everything is identical to the state system, which, by the way, hasn't done a very good job in the last 20 years.